In addition to the center that James and Grace Lee Boggs set up, and which she still actively runs, there are several other hubs of community development in Detroit. Prominent among these, of course, are the churches.
The street behind us to Euclid, and we have 104 vacant houses in this area. And that's not even a 1 mile radius, that's less than 1 mile, because we're not able to hold the community together because of crime. I mean, we've had, I think it was 13 killings last year in this area alone.
The crisis that is at hand, whether it's economics or politics, whether it's the way consumerism and individualism has deadened people in the recent period, it's ultimately a spiritual crisis, and I think that the churches have a role in addressing and respiriting the city in terms of community.
Sandra Simmons would agree. She runs a place called Hush House with her husband Charles, an historian and professor of journalism at Eastern Michigan University. Hush House does everything from crime prevention programs in their neighborhood to a literacy program with Liberia, to prison outreach, to providing a refuge and rehabilitation space for released convicts. Hush House also has a museum, a newspaper, and an ongoing 24/7 conversation about just what community means.
If you're sitting at a table with a CEO and a person who's been living in a building, and a woman who may be working on the street, and a young man may be selling drugs, there's information that those people need to know from each other. The idea that, in fact, that I don't know how to live in a cold building and survive, but this other person does.
We've been in an economic crisis in this area for decades, and so much of the rest of the country is just now catching up to the conditions that we've already been facing. Mm-hmm. So we have a lot to teach as well as a lot to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Wimberly is executive director of Friends of Detroit and Tri-County, a group he started in a cubby, then moved to a house, then a storefront. Now Friends of Detroit has a 23,000 square foot space in a former meatpacking plant. It boasts a raft of computers and sewing machines, both for classes and for making things. His group runs an open-air market for startup merchants, and it has planted hundreds of fruit and nut trees in the neighborhood, which will be harvested for jams and other added value products that will be made in Wimberly's licensed professional kitchen.
One thing that Detroit has shown that a lot of other places are starting to know is that these things don't always come back. You know, people think, oh, well, when the economy turns around, I'll get my new car, I'll get my new pickup, I'll get my dream kitchen. Well, we're here to tell you that in a lot of instances, it's not going to happen. So we have to create an economy, because General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, all of those entities have left us on our own. And that's okay, because, and thank God for those entities, because they helped us to create our infrastructure, our cultural venues, and they put a lot of food on the table and created great universities here in the state of Michigan. But the work was so dehumanizing. It was just, you punched the time clock, you turned your brain off, and you went on the assembly line. Right? So we're thankful for what that has created in terms of material abundance and the infrastructure that we have. But now it becomes a time that we have to push forward and reimagine all these things and create what we want.